Okay, let's dive right into this. Today, we're unpacking a system that honestly might look pretty simple on the surface, but it's actually one of the most complex, high-stakes games in the world. We are talking about the global chess game of grain marketing. And, it's absolutely wild to think that a tiny, unassuming little seed is literally the ultimate anchor of our entire global economy. So I want you to really chew on this for a second. How does a simple seed actually dictate the stability of the global economy? I mean, we interact with grains every single day, right? In our morning cereal, our bread, even the feed for the livestock that gives us dairy and meat. But that journey from a seed in the dirt to a stable, functioning nation is incredibly intricate. In this explainer, we're going to zoom way, way out. We're starting at a single microscopic kernel and expanding our lens all the way out to sheer national security, breaking down exactly how this massive interconnected market really ticks. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that these simple seeds, stuff like wheat, oats, rice, and corn, they are the literal physical anchors of this massive economic journey. Just look at the raw commodity here. These aren't just baking ingredients, they are the baseline currency of human survival and global agricultural commerce. We're talking hundreds of millions of metric tons traded worldwide. That is a massive pool of global liquidity. Long before they ever hit a grocery store shelf, they are the vital assets of farmers who have to figure out, how to turn a super volatile harvest into a sustainable livelihood. But before we get into the heavy business mechanics of things, we actually need to understand the product itself. Section 1. Anatomy of a grain, the micro level. Take a look at the anatomy of a whole grain kernel. Every single one of these kernels is made up of 3 distinct physical parts, and each one serves a highly specific biological purpose for the plant. It's honestly just an elegant piece of natural engineering, and it forms the absolute bedrock of this entire global industry. Let's break those 3 parts down real quick. First up, you have the bran. That's the hard, protective outer shell, loaded with fiber and minerals. Then, right in the middle, you've got the endosperm. That's the starchy layer providing all the energy. And finally, the germ. That's the nutrient-dense inner core, basically the seed for a brand new plant. Now, I want you to keep the bran in mind specifically. Why? Because just like the bran acts as this tough protective shield guarding the life inside the seed, a smart grain marketing plan acts as a protective shell around a farm's profits. Without that protective layer, well, a sudden market dip, an unexpected supply glut, or some crazy weather event can instantly rot the core of a farm's profitability.
Which brings us to Section 2. What is grain marketing? The pivot to business.
The source material gives us this brilliant, powerful quote. Grain marketing is the technical art of selling grain. I just love that phrasing, a technical art, because it really drives home the point that modern agriculture isn't just about the physical grind and agronomy of growing crops anymore. It's a highly strategic, deeply mathematical business practice. A producer has to make these incredibly informed, critical decisions using some pretty complex tools. We're talking forward contracts, navigating futures markets, playing with options, capturing basis appreciation, the whole shebang. They have to decide exactly when to sell, for exactly how much, and to exactly who. And it's those highly technical decisions that dictate whether a farm just scrapes by for a season or truly thrives for generations to come. And this brilliantly illustrates the dual nature of smart green marketing. On the left side here, you've got market analysis. These are entirely external factors, things completely 100% out of the farmer's control. We're looking at severe global weather events like El Niño wiping out South American yields, geopolitical trade embargoes, supply chain blockades in the Black Sea, volatile global demand trends, you name it. But over on the right side, you have market decisions. These are internal factors, things that are entirely about the individual farm. This is managing your structural debt load, figuring out immediate cash flow needs, checking your on-farm bin space for storage, and hitting your personal business goals. The absolute secret sauce to smart grain marketing is knowing the difference between the chaotic outside world that you can only analyze and the internal business strategy that you actively control. Section 3. Building a marketing plan, the strategy. All right, so our source outlines this highly structured 5-step grain marketing plan. And honestly, this is where the true mechanics of the trade come out to play. Let's walk through it methodically. Because guys, this isn't just a basic to-do list, it is literally a financial survival guide. Step 1, analyze the market by gathering unbiased info. This means getting into the weeds of USDA, WSDE reports, tracking regional basis trends, understanding global crop conditions, not just scrolling the daily headlines. Step 2, manage the risk. This means making the tough agronomic calls, balancing input costs like your fertilizer and seed against the projected income of different crops, making sure the farm isn't overly exposed on just one commodity. Step 3, and this one is the absolute holy grail of grain marketing, understand your position. This means meticulously calculating your exact cost of production. You have to know your precise break-even benchmark price per acre and per bushel, period. Because if you don't know your break-even, you're not marketing, you're just gambling. Step 4, use strategies and tools to develop targeted approaches. This is where you deploy the specific financial instruments, knowing when to lock in forward cash contracts, when to buy put options for a floor price, or when to just physically store the grain and wait for basis appreciation. And finally, step 5, set timelines and continuously evaluate. Look, a marketing plan is a living, breathing document. You've got to adapt your goals dynamically as the markets shift, realizing that the right time to sell is based on market opportunities, not just what the physical harvest calendar says. Methodically executing this rigorous 5-step approach, that is exactly what builds that protective brand around a farm's financial legacy. But, of course, the producer doesn't just execute this sophisticated plan in a vacuum. There are critical nodes all along the supply chain moving millions of bushels from the farm to the end user. First, you have the producers, who are the absolute cornerstone of the whole market. Then, you've got advisors and analysts. These are the market experts helping producers actually capitalize on those super narrow trading windows. Next up are the buyers. Think massive feed yards, commercial flour mills, ethanol processing plants. And bridging the gap between all of them are the storage and transportation networks. This is a complex logistical ballet, managing grain elevators, navigating rail strike risks, dealing with barge drafts on the Mississippi River, coordinating deep water port logistics. It's a massive, highly interconnected value chain. Section 4, Economic and Global Benefits, the Macro View. So the crucial point here is where the domino effect actually begins. When individual farmers successfully pull off a smart marketing plan, they secure their income, they manage their operational risk, and they get access to broader global markets. But that individual success doesn't just stay on the farm. When farmers are profitable, they reinvest that capital right back locally. They're upgrading machinery at the local dealerships, they're supporting regional banks, they're bolstering the local tax base. This sparks rural development and creates real community resilience. And a resilient community is one that doesn't just economically fold when a single crop fails or when global commodity prices take a temporary nosedive. And it gets bigger, because these resilient local communities don't just survive. They scale up to create massive benefits for the entire national economy. We're talking major trade and export revenue, bringing in crucial foreign exchange reserves, which heavily influences the national balance of trade and boosts GDP. It generates widespread employment across the entire value chain, sustaining jobs in high-capacity storage, heavy transport, industrial processing. Ultimately, a highly efficient grain marketing system guarantees a reliable, steady supply for massive food and feed industries, and that locks in overarching economic stability for the whole country. Which brings us to the absolute climax of our explainer today. When this grain marketing system functions correctly, it delivers the ultimate macroeconomic benefits for society and the nation as a whole. It guarantees food security by making sure there's a consistent, reliable supply of grain for domestic consumption, completely shielding the population from sudden food shortages. It acts as an engine for poverty alleviation, keeping rural areas viable. And most importantly, it creates profound national resilience. A nation that produces, protects, and smartly markets its own agricultural commodities fundamentally reduces its dependence on foreign imports. It achieves true geopolitical self-reliance. Which leaves us with this final, vital thought drawn directly from the source material. We live in an incredibly unpredictable world right now. With external threats like international conflict disrupting major shipping lanes, severe regional droughts, and devastating flooding on the rise globally, the stakes have literally never been higher. So, whether you're a producer managing thousands of acres or just a dedicated observer of the global macroeconomy, you really have to ask yourself, is the marketing plan, that crucial, protective brand, strong enough to weather the coming storms? It's a profound question to ponder as you consider the incredible, high-stakes global chess game of grain marketing. Thanks for learning with us today.